meeting for the CARES Act Fund to order. And the first item on the list is going to be the invocation. I'm going to ask Commissioner Harvey if he would lead us in the invocation, and Commissioner Goddard in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us bow our heads. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for an opportunity today to work for our fellow man here in Putnam County. Father, this is a big item that we need to address today, Father, and we just ask that your guidance and your wisdom flows directly from your throne room into our mind today, Father, in our heart. And let us deliberate properly today, Father. We ask that you be with our country. If there's any unrest that's going to take place, Father, we ask that you be there and guide us and protect us, Father. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please join me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey and Commissioner Goddard. Next item on the list is a public comment. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have anybody here with us today that would like to make public comment at this time? Okay, please come up, Ken. If you just state your name and address for the record, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Ken Moore from the American Legion. I'm the post commander, Birdhouse Post 45 Palatka. And I just was bringing up, are they going to come up with the CARES Act program that will help the nonprofits?
I don't really know how to answer that, Ken, because I realized that it didn't fit your situation. I saw your interaction, and I think it was in the newspaper. And,
Yes, sir.
But we don't make the rules.
I understand it, not blaming anybody here. It just, everything, specifically states that cannot replace funds, donations, or sales during that time. And being a nonprofit, that's everything we use it for. So it didn't benefit us in any way. I just had that question for you. And
Yes,
I understand.
sir.
It's not your.
I understand, and you're not unique in that same position.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, there are certain things that you just can't use it for income replacement or anything like that. That's just part of the rules that comes down from the Fed and the state.
Yes, sir. I understand. And again, I thank you all for what you do, and I don't blame you. I just, wanted to see if there was going to have anything to come out for the nonprofits who suffered loss during that time. But, all right. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you, Ken, for coming. Seeing no one else here for public comment, I'm going to close public comment, and we're going to move into the CARES Act discussion that's in your packet, and I'm going to turn this portion of it over to Ms. Young.
Good afternoon. I believe I'm 6 feet from y'all, so if you're okay, I'm going to remove that. The agenda packet this morning is quite robust, so if it is the will of the commissioner, if you will allow me to take us step by step through it and we can discuss it item by item, I think it's going to be most easily to take bites of it at this time. Item number 1 is just simply for informational purposes at this time, or was included for informational purposes at this time. I believe you'll need to reference it as we move forward through the discussion on the other items. But if you'll remember on 929, we had a spend plan, a summary spend plan that the board approved, and the detailed spend plan is then page 2, and that's at 929. Yes, sir.
Jeff, we just started the actual packet. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Julie, go ahead.
No problem. Good afternoon, Commissioner. So the page 1 and 2 is that spend plan that we brought to you on the 929 special board meeting that was approved. And then what you're seeing for page 3 is what we have as an updated spend plan as of 10/20/2020. And that accounts for the board authorized contracts, the United Way to administer the individual assistance program, and the board authorized DOH Putnam $52,000 for, and some change, for their testing center staffing and that kind of thing. So obviously, we had to make some minor modifications, and if you'll notice from the, if you compare the two, the majority of what happened was we reduced the county's allocation and then took a few other items that had been deemed FEMA eligible. The sheriff's office went ahead and applied for some FEMA funding, so that relieved some of their need as well. And so that's what you're seeing. So again, item number 1 is really informational purposes that I believe you're gonna need as we walk through the discussions on the next several items. But before I move forward, are there questions on item number 1 and the spend plans?
You don't need any direction on item 1, that's coming
No, sir.
later.
Yes, sir.
Real quick.
Just a point of clear,
Yes, go
Oh,
right
I'm sorry.
ahead.
I don't have page 3.
Your mic ain't on.
in your agenda packet, page 3 would have
Sorry,
been,
it says page 4.
I'm sorry, you're correct. The agenda item, which pages 1 and 2, so you're talking about page 5, is our current modified spend plan.
Okay. I got a little confused.
Do I need to take a break? Okay. So just a point of clarity, there is no action to be taken at this time. When I provided you all this agenda packet, we had just received word from FDEM that we had passed the funding manager review and was being sent to DEM for final review of our overall spend plan, our spend down plans, and that's what gets us access to the phase 2 funding. So last night at about 7, I got a call from our FDEM liaison, and we are officially in phase 3. That means our spend plan for the 100% has passed FDEM's approval. Our funding manager has signed off on our phase 1 spend and our phase 2 spend plan. Now we will submit all the reports to reconcile that, but that also triggers the phase 2 money to hit our bank. And so now we at the same time phase 2 money is hitting our bank, as soon as we can report those funds spent, we begin our phase 3 funding, which is on a reimbursement basis. Okay, so just an update from the time the agenda packets were sent out, and again, I got that about 7 o'clock last night.
And at what point do we need to determine where that money's gonna be spent from until it's reimbursed?
Well, so that's item number 2, and I don't believe, well, it's the board's direction, and we'll move right into that. So the board can authorize a budget allocation, basically transfer, basically to fund this account until those monies change. However, the typical approach that we've taken on grants is to book a receivable and not to truly move dollars from one account to another. And that's item number 2, and the clerk of court is here with us. The clerk of court would like clear direction on if the board desires us to use the CARES Act grant and treat it like we do other grants on a reimbursement, on a receivable basis, or if the board physically wants dollars to move from one account and then back to another account.
I don't think that's necessary, because what we do as a receivable is just pay it out of existing funds until the new funds come in and replace the receivable on the financial statement, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna let finance, this is finance's kind of portion of it.
We do that all the time with, okay, sorry. We do that all the time. We only have about 1 or 2 grants that we ever get up front, like all your SCOP grants, LAP grants, all of those, we have to pay the money out first, and then we get reimbursement after the fact.
Okay, so you just wanted direction of the board that it was all right with us if you treated it like previous grants and just did a receivable? Does anybody have a problem with that by consensus?
No problem.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, so with that note, we had stopped paying out the small business grants because we've already reached the first funding level. And so we were waiting on that second pot of money before we continued on with that.
But you can go ahead and book it as a receivable now and move forward. You comfortable with it? Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you. That concludes item number 2, unless the clerk or finance needs anything further for that. Okay? Then I'm gonna move on to item number 3, unless we have questions.
Hang on, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
Yeah, go right ahead, sir.
Susan, I did have a question. Are you gonna, the next 25% is gonna be hitting our bank account from what we understand. You're not gonna really treat that as accounts receivable. You're gonna have that money available.
That's
Okay.
correct.
20%.
20%.
Phase 2 is
But after we go through those funds, then we'll start booking them as a receivable until it's reimbursed.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Thank you, Ms. Young. Please continue.
Okay, and next is specifically geared towards the small business and nonprofit grant program, but the same theory or principle applies to our individual assistance program. It's just a few steps behind us because it launched after the other two. So essentially, I'm here today telling you that we have 357 eligible small businesses and 53 nonprofit eligible entities. That's as of yesterday, so it changed again this morning. It changes every day. And we have 239 in missing document status. So what I need to know from the board is, do we suspend new applications until we work through the missing docs, or do we allow it to be first come, first serve based on the first to become eligible?
I think what needs to happen is that we need to give the people that you've been working with for weeks and possibly even months to furnish the documentation that would qualify them. We need to give them a time certain, that it's like a week or 10 days, and at that point, if they haven't furnished the documentation, then they need to reapply. Because what's happening, if I'm understanding correctly, when I discussed this with you earlier, the people are actually taking a spot in the queue. And so somebody that may or may not ever turn in documentation and y'all have been working on with for a month or more now, possibly, or even longer, and they haven't returned documentation, or they can't return documentation or whatever, we've got 49 businesses that can't be funded because we have spent all the money.
Correct.
And so with that being the case, those 49 businesses that could support, give the supporting documents can't qualify because they're taken up by somebody who may or may not. And we don't know how many of them there are out of that 239 that's actually taken a spot. So we're gonna have to give them like a week or 10 days, do your documents or reapply. And then we can start moving the people up that are over the limit and start moving them up that qualify into the queue.
Okay.
So, I think that would be the way to take care of this, to get the people out, that are not gonna ever qualify. And also on top of that, it would give a week to 10 days and that would happen, and then you're gonna be able to bring in the other qualifying businesses that are right now just sitting on the side.
Right.
So that's, did I communicate well with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, it's complicated.
It is.
So,
Staff would recommend a week over the 10 days, just because many of these businesses have already been contacted and we've been pulling things out of them for a long time. So,
okay, so a week, and give them a week, and if they haven't given the documents, then they've got to reapply.
yes.
Okay, I think, that's what I'd do. Commissioner Harvey, do you have something, sir?
No, I'm good right now. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Rawls, do you have something, sir?
Why would you not just leave them in the queue, work around them? So they, if they're number 6, you go to number 7, number 7 qualifies, move them up, get them funded, and leave them where they are. Just, I would think we just send a notice out and say, we've attempted to contact you, we've attempted to get your other documentation. You're still short. When the money runs out, the money runs out, because we had agreed that we were gonna do this until the money ran out.
Right.
And I would say, let's just keep moving forward, and if other people come in and they're diligent and able to get their poop in a group, as my office manager says, then so be it.
I think that's what we just
yeah.
proposed.
Okay,
yeah.
but not
So
giving them extra time.
staff's okay
just-
with either option?
Yeah, I would say just keep moving forward and not, I wouldn't want to put any more burden on the staff they have right now. Just keep pushing forward and get the money out, and
Wouldn't that put less burden if you could go ahead and do that, or would you rather just move forward with the new ones without trying to get those others out of your queue? Because we have no way of knowing at this time if I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree, so
Yeah.
don't misunderstand, but, I just don't know. I guess I'm gonna ask what would be best on y'all. I know y'all got 4 people working full-time on this.
I know at the end of this thing,
around the
somebody's going to
clock.
come up and say, I applied, I never heard, I never had a chance, and our answer is just going to be, if you applied and you didn't turn the paperwork in and somebody else did, This happened with PPP. This happened with EIDL. Everybody got treated the same.
Yeah.
So, and when that first round, if you guys think back, when that first round of, I think it was PPP that ran out, I mean, it was within 5 days. But they still had people that were in the queue. So everybody had to understand that. Then there was a second round, and there might be a fourth round, it sounds like, coming out soon. So I'd say whatever the path of least resistance is to getting the funds distributed, because they're needed sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree. Commissioner Pickens?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that when you, I know that you have contacted these people and they're missing documentation or whatever, that when it comes down to the time period where it's over with, that they are notified that, hey, no more time.
That we're out of
and you have to
funding.
reapply. Okay.
We will do our best to let them know when we're out of funding or that they have to reapply. And that's where staff's really looking for the direction of the board. Are we going to set a timeline for them to furnish the documents that are outstanding and then tell them they have to reapply? Or are we going to fund first come, first serve based on an eligibility status? And that's
If
what I.
all the, if I understand correctly, if all the people that, that have currently applied, if they were funded, we're 49 over the limit already.
That's correct.
So we're,
And
in
I
order,
have a
we can do
handful of
like
them
Commissioner
sitting
Rawls
in.
says, if that's easier on you, or like I said, if it's easier on you to give them 7 days to show that it's urgent, you either do it or not, and then at the end of that, I think we need to do that, just to let them know that they have one more shot at trying to get their paperwork together instead of just leaving them in the queue until we spend the money, because I think it's gonna go on and get spent if we leave it open and move it forward. Commissioner Pickens, were you done, sir?
Yeah, I'm done.
Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's not the calls I get. The calls I get is I turned in all my paperwork and I've heard nothing.
Yep.
And that's what I get. And then that's not true. I mean, you helped me with one yesterday that contacted me at the football game Friday night.
Right.
And didn't even mention it until Monday, and I'm like, why didn't you talk to me Friday night? I was here, you know.
A lot of these
But they think they've turned in everything. So what's the breakdown? Where are we missing this at?
But, sir, that particular request, even if we take that, and that's a good example, because it's not an anomaly.
Right.
She believed that she had turned everything in. She had been told on multiple occasions, you haven't, and here's a list of items that I need. And then I even got involved that morning when she had come to you and sent her a detailed list. You haven't submitted this, I can take this or any of these alternatives. You haven't submitted this, I can take this or any of these alternatives. She called me an hour later and said, I'm not sure what I need to provide to you. So, to some degree, we can't run their businesses for them.
Right.
And ultimately, she still was confused after I talked to her for a good period of time, and we ended up having me work with her bookkeeper to get those documents.
See that? You shouldn't.
So there's a lot of involvement in that, and that's just one missing applicant. So I spent several hours just on her after she had been communicated with multiple other times by staff. So I don't think it's fair to take the assumption that these people are saying they haven't been contacted. They may not be understanding, but we are communicating it in a multitude of different ways.
Oh, I know.
Here's what we need. So that's why staff's seeking direction from the board.
Well, I didn't want you to think that I'm throwing you under the bus. That's
No,
not
no,
the
no.
point.
No, but it's a good example
But
because
when I
it's
own my
one
own
of
business,
very
it's-
many.
Yeah, when I own my own business, it's, you know, it was Larry at the end, and that's not the truth of what really took place. So,
Right.
you know.
Well, and like Commissioner Rawls said a few minutes ago, he hit the nail square on the head, is that, you know, if you're dealing with a bank or if you're dealing with the PPP loans or the SBA or whatever, they don't call up and baby you through the process. If you're interested in having the grant, you need to at least furnish the information needed. If you don't understand, then you need to go hire a professional, because I don't see how we can take our staff and go and fill out all our applications. I mean, we've done everything that we could all the way through the process to help them out. So, and I'm not trying to be hard about this at all, but at some point, everybody's got to play by the same set of rules.
That's right.
And so, I still think you need to, out of an abundance of caution, for somebody that's just dilly-dallying around, instead of getting their stuff, that go ahead and give them a notice that in 7 days, if you're either gonna have to, if you haven't given us the documentation, then you're gonna have to reapply. then at that point, we can put a press release out because we'll know how much money we have. We can go into the 49. It may be that we can take another 29. I don't know, I'm just making that number up, but could take another 29 if that many people dropped out of the original tranche of money. So, is that what you're kind of looking for? I mean, does that answer whatever questions you need
Yes,
today?
if the board is satisfied with that solution, then that is the direction
Are
staff.
you satisfied with that
Yes,
solution?
staff will contact those missing documents and give them official notice tomorrow. And then they will have 7 days from tomorrow to furnish those, or we'll actually work with Widow Bryan to put them in a non-responsive category. Basically, they didn't respond to our inquiry.
They could reapply if they wanted to try
Correct.
again.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Is
And in
that
the
okay with
meantime-
everybody?
In
Okay.
the meantime, just to be clear, the application will remain live on our website. However, if someone applies, they will go into basically a hold bucket until we clear out these other entities.
That's correct, in order of when you got them. So I'm
Yes.
assuming they're dated when you get them or whatever, so you can take them in order. If we only get
But the
30 drop out, the first 30 gets to
Right.
move in and take their place.
Absolutely.
problem I see with that is you're gonna put people on hold, and they may be on hold for 6 weeks hoping, and then at the end.
We don't have 6 weeks to be on hold.
The
To be
what?
on, we don't have 6 weeks to be on hold, so,
Well, it depends where they're on the queue, so if you give the 40 people tomorrow a week, then we're gonna put any new applicants on hold for at least that week, and then if they come in and they have issues, you know, we could drag it out for them, so
But Commissioner,
I'll go either way, but I personally would say, first come, first serve. Whoever's got their
I think that's what we're
application
doing,
complete
but the
and-
only way we can free up the first come is if we get rid of some that are in the queue, because when they come in, each one of them gets a number, and each one of them gets 10,000 put in their name until they drop out, and so we've got to clear up some space to take some more,
But
is what I think staff is telling me.
You send them a notice that says, you know, your application was deemed incomplete, therefore, you know, we're gonna continue working with you, but, we're also continue to work with other folks who are applying, and this is on a first come, first served basis, and it opens it up and moves the process along quicker, so, or shut it down for a week, and it don't matter. I'll go
I
either way.
think that's what we need to do, is we just need to give them a week. They can come in and then move them from the queue and advertise for others if we've got any money left. If that's okay with the commission. Okay, so, okay.
So our drop
that-
deadline was December 4th, correct?
for new applicants, yes. We did agree that we were gonna work through whoever was in by that date, yes, sir.
Well, I'm hoping by
We're not gonna need
doing
by
this and
December
freeing
4th.
up the money within a week, that'll give us time to start working on these applications without running out or sending money back. That's
Sure.
what we don't want. Did you have anything else for us today, Ms. Young?
Well, not on that item, but yes, I have several more.
Okay.
I'm not done with you yet, sir. Staff also needs direction on the nonprofit request proposals. Now, keep in mind, we just discussed, we are really at our max allocated monies for the $6 million for small businesses and nonprofits. So if we fund any of these in addition to requests, we'll be reducing the amount of businesses and nonprofits that can apply. So right now, we're over by 49. If we fund these, then you're gonna have to up that number by each 10,000 that you allocate. That's just a side note to make sure the board keeps in mind that. The first of them is the easiest of all three of them. The ARC of Putnam County has requested an additional $15,132. The masses of this is personal protection equipment and sanitation or screening supplies for their vulnerable populations that they serve. Widow Bryan has vetted this on a surface level only because we don't have any backup documentation other than the one-page summary that you've seen. Widow Bryan does not foresee an issue with this being eligible under the CARES Act, so it becomes a question as the will of the board.
On the ARC one?
Yes, sir, just the ARC one.
Well, there's nothing I want more than to try to fund nonprofits, so let's not take this as a fact that I don't, and that each one of them's already received a $10,000 grant. And when we talked about them being able to apply for additional, I think at that time we hadn't spent all the money, actually overspent all the money, because we're over, not just to the limit, we're over. So that means that we're either gonna have to reduce a business program, or we're gonna have to do something differently in order to fund the extra requests from the different, nonprofits, or we're gonna have to pay for it out of reserves. I got a real big problem paying for CARES Act expenses out of the county's reserves, out of the county tax dollars. So that wasn't the deal when we signed up for all this. It's not like we're not seriously invested because of the time we spend in the bullpen, if anybody call that the office where the four ladies meet in there every day and do CARES Act work. But, you know, we have significant time and investment in this, trying to get it done already. So, well, I think that there's nothing I'd like more than to be able to give the nonprofits the extra money. I just don't see how we can when we've already overspent the money that we've already done. So that's just me. Anybody else have a comment?
I have a question and a comment. Is it, the money requested is in addition to the 10,000, or does it include the 10,000?
Yes, sir. No, that's in addition to their original request was 25,132.
Okay.
They've received the award eligibility for the first 10.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Commissioner Harvey.
I
Are
have-
you done, Commissioner
No,
Ross, for now? Or?
We have another option, which would be for us to reduce the amount of money that we're taking out and put that, because we're not talking about that much money right now. And there's absolutely no doubt that Epicure has provided a huge service during COVID.
Well, if
And
we can
same
take
thing
them one
with
at a
Bread of Life.
time, if we can take them one at a time,
Okay.
but the first one
Is the ARC.
is ARC, and so if we could kind of look at it first, and then we'll go through them. But even if we reduce the amount we're taking out, the money's coming straight out of reserves, because that's where the money's going in,
Well,
is
we're
reserves. So we're taking money out of county taxpayer dollars to give to a charity. I'm not saying it's
Not
not worth it,
not
I'm just saying
necessarily.
that's what we're doing.
If we reduce our expectation of our CARES Act funding, so if we lowered our CARES Act funding by the 40, 10, or 40, 15, and 28, you've got $80,000 in
Where
round
do you
number.
think that money's coming from? If we reduce the money coming to us, we're paying for it.
But we've not incurred those we don't have real costs incurred necessarily, is what I'm
Sure
saying.
we do. We paid that money.
We haven't expended $2.9 million, but we're taking that. So what I'm saying is, if we reduce ours a little bit more, take that negative $600,000, make it negative $700,000, and move that money aside, we could fully fund them. And I know what Bread of Life does. I know what Epicure does, and obviously the ARC speak for itself as well. And in these times, I think it would be.
Well,
Our exact
like I
number
said, we gotta take these one at
We
a
got-
time, because the Bread of Life's gonna be a totally different story if you've reviewed your
What I'm saying
packet
is
at all.
make the 2.6, 2.5,
We're already at 2.4 on your modified.
okay, then 2.3. And then, or a little more than 2.3, whatever it works out to. But
Okay,
then we wouldn't touch reserves, and we would fund it out of CARES.
if it's not coming to us into reserves, then we're paying it out of reserves. We just never got the money yet to pay out. But, you done for now, sir? Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm kind of along the same lines as Commissioner Rawls. On the constitutional officers, we have spent $854,000, and we budgeted, and I've got two different pages here. I don't know why. One's 1,088,000, and one's 1.2. But if we reimburse them 854, 315.31, that leaves us 234,400 on that line item out of the 1.88715.
Can we move that money that far, or can we just move
Tell
it
me
within the
which line item. Are you
perimeters of-
taking it out of the sheriff's budget?
I got an email from Susan that the reimbursements to the constitutional officers, 854, 315.31, and you had mentioned in your opening statement that the sheriff's department was trying to find some FEMA money too, to do that. So my
Yeah.
point is simple. If it's 1.88, it gives us 234,000 left on that line item. Do we expect any more money to be paid to the constitutionals?
So we do. Well, the allocation, so if you'll look on our first detailed plan, and the easiest one to talk about it, because we've already talked about the fact that they found FEMA dollars, the sheriff's office initial request was for 1 million. And then they were able to find FEMA funds for a portion of that. We still have an allocation for them of 900. Now, we could possibly see a reduction even of that if FEMA really comes through from them of a minute amount of money. The number Susan gave you is actual pay to date, and we can only actual pay to date, actual expenses they've paid to date. So when we did the fiscal year 20, basically wrap up, what we paid out to the constitutionals was very likely only a portion of what they may request of us. Now, the tax collector expended her full request allocation. However, the others expended a portion of it. And we have not had conversations to date as to how much more of their allocation they believe that they're going to incur from October 1st to December 30th. Because remember, that's the time we still haven't covered any of them for.
Okay. So maybe you answered my question. At 53,160, you're saying the tax collector is made whole at that point, and you don't expect any more back from that?
Not for the tax collector, but the tax collector is the only one who spent 100% of their initial request to date. The others have spent a portion of them because the period was, when we asked for projected expenses, it had to cover them through the end of the year. So the tax collectors were all up front. Most of her stuff was in PPE, sanitizations, modifications for her staff, things like that. They had already made all of them. But like the court system, they just sent me their invoice this morning to order the items that they need to reopen the courthouse into the next phase. So there's a lot of these items that are still yet to be implemented. And so that allocation to date has not been adjusted by any of the constitutionals. The supervisor of elections, we're still working with him to see if we can get him HAVA funding, but he obviously has expended probably every dime of that plus more, given the fact of the election and what he's seen.
All right, let me wrap this up then. So maybe what we need to do, this is my opinion, maybe we just need to put these 3 items on hold for a while until we see exactly, maybe in a few weeks, where we're at on this item.
Okay.
Because if there is any monies left, you know, and probably not take any more nonprofit
And
requests
above and above, okay.
over and above the 10,000, and just say, okay, we're gonna slow it down just a little, tap the brake, and if we can do this, we might be able to move it from a line item up and make that possible, or maybe not make you completely whole, but maybe some of it.
Okay.
I have no problem with that at all, Commissioner, except for the fact that I do want to discuss item 2, and the reason why is because there's clearly items in the request on number 2 that there ain't no way in hell they're COVID related.
Well, staff would like, if that's gonna be this,
Item 2 to, where the Bread Alive.
Oh, okay.
They asked for,
Okay.
they asked for a new roof on their building and a new floor. The COVID ain't hurt the roof or the floor, you know, so.
Commissioner, if the will of the
But I
board
mean-
is to table some of these until a
They're
time
not
certain when
allowed
we
to do
have
that, Jeff.
a
It's
better
against the rules.
The sheriff's department put an air conditioning system in there.
Not with COVID money.
Yeah.
Okay, well, take that up with them.
Commissioner, staff would ask if it's the will of the board to wait and get a better picture of where we are in just a few weeks, that we go ahead and at least discuss items 2 and 3, because the consultant does have specific concerns about both of those proposals, and staff would like the time, if it is the will of the board, to work with those entities, if you would like, to at least have proposals that are confidently 100% CRF eligible. So
Okay.
if the board would allow us to
That
still
works,
discuss
but
it.
as you work with them, I think you should tell them at that time
Yes, sir.
that there may not be funding for the additional, but if there is, then they'll be prepared.
Right.
That was the will of the board at this time. Commissioner Pickens, did you have something else, sir?
I'm good.
Okay.
But I do think we should, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
I do think we should probably not take any more requests over the 10,000
Okay.
on those nonprofits.
I agree.
Okay.
Because
Yep.
we're kind of, I mean,
We're out of money.
We're out of
I mean,
money,
we have overspent this money, so anything that we do from now
We've
on.
held back a pretty generous amount for ourselves, though. That's what I'm saying. There's a little bit of flexibility if we had to push out another $70,000. It wouldn't kill
I
us.
think we can see that as we go forward, and maybe,
Yeah, I think that's the way to handle it, if everybody's good.
Yep.
So, All right, so you good with that item?
Yes, sir. So,
Okay,
when
now-
I'm sorry, Bread of Life, can we discuss that one next? The ARC is pretty solid, and we don't have a lot of reservations about them.
I thought we were just gonna take all three and move forward and try to get them in a compliant situation, including the Bread of Life and making
I got
sure
you.
that everything that Bread of Life and Epicure asked for was things that would fit within the scope, and then if we can find the money, we'll deal with it later. If we can't
I got
find the money, it is where it is.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you, but yes, that's not a problem.
I think that was what Commissioner Harvey was
Yep.
asking.
Not a problem.
That good enough with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And take no more additionals at this time?
No, not on, above the 10.
Above the 10.
Okay, okay.
Even the business and nonprofits, if we, it's kind of hard to take any, I mean, we're going to continue taking them until the December 4th deadline, but all they're going to do is go in a queue until we can fill up or release some of the original tranche of money that will fund some of the next ones, and then we'll take them in line until they run out or the program runs out. So I think that was what we discussed earlier.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So number 4, are you ready for number 4? Did you have something else?
No, sir, I'm ready to number 4.
Okay.
And I apologize, apparently something happened when we converted to PDF and my text got cut off. Mr. Tim contacted me early this morning and said my sentence was not grammatically correct. So I have made a grammatically correct sentence at this point. The U.S. Department of Treasury and FDEM has updated their stance on public safety, public health employees. 100% of public safety and public health regular wages and benefits are eligible for reimbursement for the period of March 1 through December 31st. The town of Interlochen reached out to us last week or the week before and has requested to amend their request to add 100% of their public safety staff personnel costs, and they're itemized there below. You can see it's an additional $91,911. Staff is seeking direction on how the board is asking us to handle this request by town of Interlochen, as well as the potential additional requests that could be received from the other municipalities and are constitutional.
Well, again, we've already spent all our money, so if we give them this $91,000, then we're taking it straight out of our reserves, because we've overspent the money. And then, who's to say that Interlochen gets it, or Crescent City, or Willaco, or the city of Palatka, or all of them get it? I mean, so, if we hadn't spent the money yet, and we had $2 million left, then I'd be the first to jump on board. Let's try to split it up and get it spent. But we've spent the money. So you can't keep going once you've spent the money. We have spent the money. Just go ahead, sir.
But let's do the same thing we just
Well,
did a minute ago, and let's go, you know what, we're not gonna deny it right now, but we've kind of overspent the money, as the chairman has said, and we're gonna look at this when we get all done. But we've got obligations that we've already done here. Is that okay with, I mean, if we,
Sounds good to me, because at this point, we don't really know exactly where we're gonna,
Right.
fall out, but we're pretty sure that we have overspent the money with the current plan.
Sure.
So if that's gonna be the case, I don't see how we can open up this whole can of worms with all the municipalities wanting all the money for all their, fire and fire services and police services and whatever, when we're already out of money.
Why don't we do this? Why don't we send out a statement to all the municipalities and let them know that we're at the end, budget-wise, that the money has been allocated and spent. Leave this money in the queue. Take a look at what we're holding back for ourselves. I still believe that we have money in there that we have absolutely not spent, that we already had budgeted and we had money in our budget to handle. So it would not be coming up to reserves. We don't have to pay our staff that was at the EOC. We're already budgeted to pay them anyways. We had staff that was sent home that we had budgeted to pay. So we could take that money, instead of reimbursing ourselves, put that out there to them, but also let everybody know that we're done, we're out.
Yeah.
Well,
We're talking a minor
Fine with
adjustment.
me. Why don't we just hold it and see what falls out later on, but just tell them for right now, and just no, not right now, but we'll hold the request and see how it comes out in the end. I don't know how else to handle it. We've overspent the money, so if we decide to free a little bit up from what would come to the county or back to the county and use it to fund a municipality, that'll be a decision that'll have to be done later. But I just think you're opening up a terrible can of worms if you give it to one and not all.
Exactly.
But we are giving it to ourselves.
I understand, but we're not doing it illegally by
Is there-
any means whatsoever. What's the difference between giving it to us or giving it to Interlochen? Tell me the difference.
But I'm just saying that for what we have for ourselves, they're requesting a very small amount.
I understand what you're
5%,
saying.
so.
I understand what you're saying, but it won't end there. Then it'll be Crescent City, and it'll be Willaca, and it'll be Palatka, and it'll be for the millions of dollars from Palatka, because it's all the money for that time period. So you open a can, it's not just a matter of paying one a little money and less, taking a little less. It's a matter of somebody's fixing to be upset that they didn't get part. So
Does
I
anybody
think
know
it's
if there's
all
been-
or none is
Is
what
there
I
any
think.
discussion of any more CARES Act funding coming from Washington? Has there been any discussion from?
Yes,
Yes, there has?
there is.
Okay, I know that they're talking about another 2 to 2.2 million, or a trillion, but I didn't know if there's been any discussion.
Yeah, but it's been being discussed for a while.
Okay.
Commissioner Harvey.
Okay, my point is this, and I believe, I do agree with Commissioner Rawls to a certain extent on this. You know, what, maybe we do need to notify them and say, look, we're out of money. You know, we understand that the rules changed, the goalpost moved a little bit. And maybe at the end, if we have any money left, then we can share it with our municipalities based on some type of a pro rata share. But truly, you might not get the 91 because we only got 100, and divide it up by personnel, and you get 10 and they get 15, and we might not have any money left. And I think that's the way, I don't want to say no, but we can't say yes. So we got to say, let's shake this out. And if more money does come from the federal government, which I heard on the radio driving in today, that now everybody's starting to talk again, and that's going to probably take place, but we've heard that for a long time. We also heard that it's going to be extended into next year, which I think probably will take place. But right now, we got to play with the rules that we got.
Right.
And they did change the rules on us, because it's nice to know this before we made all these other commitments that we were trying to help everybody. So I think we just let them know, you can apply, we're going to keep it. If we have money left, the board will decide what you get, and that's the bottom line.
Okay, well, that's good. Let's just move it forward, but, you know, I think that whatever we do, we're gonna have to do for all the municipalities at a piece. And my concern is, you know, it's easy for us to stand up here and without giving it much thought and saying, well, let's put on another program. But right now, we got 4 people that works for the county that haven't checked their own emails in 2 weeks because they haven't had time for doing all this work on CARES. I'm not saying this isn't more important or whatever, but we are using up some resources on this program in Putnam County. And at some point, it's gonna tell the tale, something's not gonna get done or fall between the cracks. So, you know, I don't mind putting this stuff on hold, but before we start up another program or whatever, we need to see what resources it's gonna take, is my point. Commissioner Goddard, did you have something to add, sir?
I did. What I was getting to is Mr. Harvey was alluding to, we have been hearing that there are quite a possibility that monies will be coming out. So I'm still going along with what everybody else says. Let's go ahead and clean up what we got, put a stop right there, and go ahead and tally what we can't do, because I do believe it's gonna come back and the state's gonna ask us, and we're gonna say, well, we need this amount of money, based on the facts that we have here. But I think that's the way we need to do. We can't maybe fund this one and maybe fund that one. We need to put a stop to it, clean up, get your job complete, and then see where we are.
Good with you, Julie?
Yes, sir?
Everybody,
Yep.
good? Anybody else have anything else to add at this point? Okay, was that all you had for us today,
That's all,
Julie?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, Terry, do you have anything to add today?
No, sir, I don't. I
you.
appreciate it because Julianne needed some of that direction. I think she got what she needed today, and thank y'all
All right.
very much for that.
Well, there's no problem. If, there's nothing else to add here today, I'll adjourn this, special meeting.
You didn't ask.